Let's call the meeting to order here. Rock Valley College, District 511, Committee of the Whole meeting, 5:15, Tuesday, October the 8th. May I have a roll call, please?
Gorski. Nelson.
Here.
Kudia.
Here.
Kennedy here. Michaels.
Here.
Soltow.
Here.
Trojan.
Here.
We have enough for a quorum.
I know Trustee Gorski will be late, and Kristen will not be here at all. She's apparently ill. So we don't need any board member by other means than physical presence. Are there any communications and petitions?
No communications or petitions.
Any visitors to be recognized?
No visitors to be recognized.
Review of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole of September 10th. Are there any comments to be made to adjust? Hearing none. Is there a general presentation?
No general presentation at this time.
Wow, this is going pretty good, huh?
I move to adjourn.
We're on a roll here. Okay, teaching, learning, and communications. Trustee Simpson in her absence. We will start with sabbatical report by Dr. Danielle Hardesty.
We'll start with Dr.
I'd like to welcome
Amanda Smith, sorry.
Dr. Danielle Hardesty, who is the associate professor here of philosophy, and she's going to share about her. I'll talk closer to the mic. She's going to share about her sabbatical.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank everyone here for not only allowing me to present my research, but giving me the opportunity to engage in this research. I was awarded a half-time sabbatical during the last academic year, 2023 to 2024, which meant I had a reduced teaching load so that I could work on this work that had basically three legs. The first, all three legs centered on what is called equity-centered assessment. Now, assessment in general looks at how our students are learning within and outside of the classroom, and how we measure that. You know, do we measure that with assignments, with discussion, and how do we know how our students are learning? It also looks at how students' learning behaviors change over time. Since COVID in particular, we've seen a dramatic change in how students learn in the classroom, being more familiar with online technology, but also being a little bit more hesitant to engage in large group discussion. Now, in the field of assessment, which is very much in the realm of educational research and educational psychology, we see this term called equity-centered assessment. And what I mean by that is, how do we look at the curriculum and learning experiences of our students in ways that can close achievement gaps? So for example, in philosophy as a discipline, we have a gap between how our white and Hispanic students are performing versus our African American male students, right? And so one of the things I wanted to learn over this semester is, how can I use my teaching methodology and the curriculum to start working towards closing that gap, right? And how can we have these conversations kind of broadly across Rock Valley College? So the first leg of my presentation, or my research, excuse me, was doing a complete analysis of our assessment practices here at Rock Valley, with a particular focus in how we are engaging with assessment, looking at overall how many faculty, how many student service people are engaging with this effort, and how can we increase it. So I accomplished this through a couple of different ways. I've been a member of the Curricular Assessment Committee, but last year I joined the Co-Curricular Assessment Committee, so I could be part of that building process and conversations. I also was part of a cohort through the Higher Learning Commission that builds leadership and assessment. And one of the things that we did is we picked a project, which for me was my sabbatical project, and we met with monthly online with other assessment leaders at other schools and other community campuses, and everyone agreed that engagement was probably one of the larger obstacles that everyone was trying to increase. And so what I did during this process, particularly during the fall semester, is I met with nearly all of the chairs, or had at least some email communication with chairs to see where they were at with assessment, but also to find out what ways they like to be communicated with, because communication about our shifting software had been coming out, our new methodology was coming out, so I wanted to make sure that information was being delivered. And then I worked with specific departments in the spring semester to help them accomplish their goals that they had set out. So some of the highlights of things that were accomplished with my help was we looked at dental hygiene's program outcomes, and we were able to rewrite those. I also worked with phlebotomy to not only train on our system software, but also to how to upload data and how to draw conclusions from that data. I did a similar process with speech and rewriting their program outcomes, and then helped train engineering on software. And overall, from my personal experience, and by all means, this is a very, I'm a faculty member who's had limited experience with other faculty members, is that the most effective way that I was able to communicate with individuals was through one-on-one meetings. That a lot was being lost in the email noise, and if I could set up individual meetings of even just 30 minutes, we were able to get people caught up on where they needed to be and just uploading data and reviewing actions. One of the other things that I learned in these meetings is everyone was very excited to be thinking about ways that their work in the classroom could be used to close equity gaps. We've known for a while that that's something that the faculty are really passionate about, so how can I give them the tools to help analyze those problems? And then lastly, one of the preferred methods of communication that I heard quite often was at the dean level, right? If we can have that communication at division meetings, that was kind of a preferred method. So the second leg of my sabbatical project was developing professional development for Rock Valley College. And that took place both virtually and face-to-face. On the virtual side, I helped develop the assessment toolkit, which is a series of online videos and informational pages on our intranet to explain all of the different components of the assessment process, the cycle, how to use the software, and how we can then analyze that data and take action items. I also was helping our executive director at the time, Dr. Lisa Malig, work on an assessment newsletter, right, which featured different stories of good work that was happening around the college. And then lastly, really publicize the initiative of what we call our skills stories, which is sharing continuous improvement of learning stories. And so what this looks like are little videos of faculty talking about a time that they failed in the classroom and then changes they made in response to that failure, right, to improve the process. And so we actually now are building out that database that has those stories in them. And then the third part of my sabbatical work was my own personal professional development. So this took, first and foremost, I was able to finish my Master's of Education in Evaluation, Assessment, Research, and Learning, which is kind of why this sabbatical was proposed at the time, because this is a specific program offered through Georgia Southern University that is intended or designed for people in education right now so that you can use your work projects as classroom projects and vice versa. So I was able to talk a lot about the work I was doing, for example, with the LGBTQ Commission, and learn how to develop like focus groups for that. And then I was able to present at a series of professional conferences. So the first two that I presented at were national conferences with the American Association of Colleges and Universities. It was a conference on global learning. And the IUPUI, although now it's IUI, Assessment Institute, which is a big national assessment institute. And I presented at both of those with Dr. Lisa Malig, and we presented on the topic of how to use assessment to close equity gaps, in which she laid out the infrastructure we have here at Rock Valley, and then I talked about my individual classroom experiences of improving various student groups' performances. And then the third conference I attended was an Illinois Community College conference called the Assessment Fair, where I presented on the work that our CTE programs are doing. One of the big takeaways from the CTE area is that they are very invested in assessment, and I was able to find that once we were able to distinguish between what we call lesson objectives, right? What we want our students to learn or take away from the classroom versus a success indicator, which is how many students passed the class, right? And if we can separate those out, our CTE programs, particularly welding, was really excited about being able to think a little bit more creatively about how to, gauge students' lab experiences. And then lastly, my kind of key takeaways from talking with others across, multiple conferences, is that really Rock Valley has the most cutting edge infrastructure for assessment, right? They were really impressed, particularly by our co-curricular assessment. We've been applauded just in our preparatory meetings with HLC about the way that we are using and measuring learning experiences outside the classroom, for example, like at our DEI events, right? We've been able to develop what we want students to learn at those events, and then through, for example, a survey, gauge students' understanding of what they took away from that, so that we know what are the best ways to deliver information to our students. And then lastly, right, we have developed this strategy of how to make meaning out of our assessment, right, and given it this equity-centered lens, which is by far several steps ahead from where even large four-year universities are. I remember being shocked when I went to a presentation by Auburn, yes, the Auburn, right? And they didn't do assessment till 5 years ago. And so they're asking me questions, right, about what are you doing with your co-curricular assessment? And so it was, I have a lot of confidence that what we've built here at Rock Valley, and if we continue to keep it moving forward, is really going to make a difference for our students. So I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question. All the things you learned, were you able to pass on to your colleagues here at the college?
Yes, so one of the things that I did, and it was on the second slide and I accidentally skipped it, is I've developed professional development training sessions on Professional Development Day. So I did one on the technique of scaffolding, which is where you give students maximal assistance in writing an essay, and then you slowly remove it over time. I've been able to do it on universal design for learning, which is how do we develop super accessible education. And then I did a third one on neuroscience. And I really did these as pilots to see where faculty's interests were, and they were really well attended. And so my plan is to try to replicate them and do them again at future ones to reach a broader audience.
Oh, good.
Very good.
Very good. That's a good asset to have to pass on to your colleagues for sure. Any other questions? Yes, Richard. And then
I just wanted to thank you for your passion and enthusiasm to the project, and we're lucky to have you at Rock Valley College. Thank you very much for your hard work.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
any other? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Gloria.
I got to talk to you about that. It's refreshing to hear again that Rock Valley College is leading the charge. I mean, I'm hearing that a lot in a lot of areas that we're doing here at Rock Valley. Question is, how do we repeat this to the public? And I think that would be another thing that we can, as the old saying goes, putting another feather in your hat. And it's refreshing to hear this again. Thank you for this report.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you very much, Dr. Haddad.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next item is the 14th day census enrollment data brief and student profile.
Good evening, trustees.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Both the 14th day census enrollment report and this full student profile are in your packet for your review, so I'll just share with you a few highlights. First, the 14th day census enrollment. As you probably recall from previous terms, this is slightly different than the data reported on the monthly enrollment report to trustees because this includes adult education credits and some vocational skills courses, and that's per the ICCB definitions on reporting enrollment. So these are the official numbers that we report to the Illinois Community College Board. So if you do see the state press release, this would be the information shared out on that as well. So for that report, we are ahead of where we were 5 years ago for unduplicated headcount, but slightly behind where we were 5 years ago on credit hours and FTE. So what that says to me, and I've seen this for several semesters in a row, is that we have more students taking fewer credits. So trends in students becoming part-time. We're getting more students, they're just not taking as much of a load. But when we compare specifically just to 1 year ago, we're ahead on both the unduplicated headcount and the credit hour that was reported. Before I switch gears to the student profile, are there any questions about the census report?
Nope.
Okay.
Good.
I'll just share with you the quick facts page of the student profile since it is a rather lengthy document, and to share with you some of the highlights and student demographics. So this report now just looks at our credit students. So think about our students taking courses for degrees and certificates on this one. Our average age is 23, which is just down slightly by a year over the 5-year span. I think a lot of it could be attributed to our large dual credit enrollment, so our average age is going down. We have a lot of younger students. Our gender is 54% women, which is somewhat stable, slightly down from 5 years ago, though. Our enrollment of minority students has grown a lot over the last 5 years, from 35% to 43%, which is not surprising. If you recall, we recently were recognized as a Hispanic serving institution, so we have seen growth in that population. Our first-time student enrollment is 21%. First-time student enrollment means those students who are enrolling in college-level courses for the very first time. So they've never been enrolled at any other institution to transfer in credits. And finally, you'll see that our part-time student enrollment has been growing over the past 5 years, which I also mentioned in the previous report. Are there any questions about the student profile?
Yes. So this is fall to fall, but what
Correct.
happens to spring or the whole year to whole year?
So in the spring, we do this report as well.
As for spring to spring.
Yeah, so we'll see spring to spring at that time. And then the entire annual enrollment is submitted typically over the summer to ICCB, and you see that data in the state of the college.
Okay, thank you. Any
Yes.
other questions?
Yep, very
Hearing
good.
none, thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you.
thorough, thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have two information-only points in here. Any questions on either the Strategic Plan Update 1 or Strategic Plan Update 2? Hearing none, we will move into the finance discussion. Trustee Gorski.
Ellen's queued up. She's already on the move.
I know how this works.
I'm glad one of us does.
So we are going to start off with Purchase Report A. First item is Air One equipment for $41,050. This is for the purchase of 5 mine safety appliance and self-contained breathing apparatuses, and they are the accessories for the Fire Science Department, and these will be purchased through the Perkins Grant. Item B is for Keone Management Services for $28,790. This is the expense for snow and ice removal services as needed at the Advanced Technology Center. Bid 24-21 snow and ice removal services. We received 6 responses, and this is for a 1-year contract. Item C is for Stratus Networks. This is for the usage of fiber internet transfer and voice over internet protocol communications. The college had previously used iFiber for this service and used Stratus Networks for data connections and enhanced plain old telephone service, telecommunication lines. Stratus acquired iFiber and will be providing all the services for the college phone system and fiber infrastructure for inter-campus data transfer. The previously approved amounts for iFiber was $44,000 and Stratus for $16,000 for a total of $60,000. This increase is due to anticipated cost for state and federal communication taxes, which do not fall under the sales tax exemption that we were not being charged by iFiber previously. Item D is for, you have a question now?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to the Stratus Networks one. The college isn't the only organization being affected by this price hike. I gotta say, in full disclosure, Lee County, when my department's been approached by them and advised they were subject to these fees. And it's not really, we're not subject to the fees. Stratus is subject to the fees, and sometimes vendors pass those fees along to people, and sometimes they don't. In this case, Stratus is pulling passing on to the college, and in my case, Lee County, what they consider to be the taxes and fees that aren't, tax exempt. But I'd ask the staff here and the attorneys to continue to put pressure on Stratus to explain in statute what their authority is to assign these, because Stratus has failed to demonstrate under the FCC guidelines and the Illinois Department of Revenue guidelines how Lee County and a few other counties, including Winnebago County and stuff, are actually subject to these fees. To bore you with a little bit of detail, for some institutions and maybe not here, Stratus supplies what here?
Stratus does provide void care, and now they provide the connections between the buildings, and they're saying because of
Please use the microphone.
I'll blame it on Amanda. She didn't give it to me.
They provide the connections between the buildings, so they're an
Yeah.
Ethernet private line and they're VoIP, and that's where they get off to do the USF fees.
That's where they're saying that. We're still trying to, I'm still asking them to show me proof that because it's an interconnection between the buildings, when everything comes back here and everything leaves from main campus, why they're billing me for all the sites when they don't go outside of the district.
Okay, and that's just asking. And just a full disclosure, Rick and I have talked about this before, not as Massili in the college, but I was soliciting information from him to help me in my defense in Lee County. So thank you for your input. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item D is for home service. On your board report, it shows it is to be determined. This is for the emergency repair of the main power line that was struck during construction related to the power shed near Building E on main campus on September 26th. Helm has been the college's unit bidder for electrical services since bid 21-08, and this is a unit bidder contract for 5 years and expires in 2026. Tonight, I'm going to tell you the dollar amount is going to be $109,295.56. So you will see that on the board report.
So wasn't there some discussion about having some kind of an equipment to help us avoid this from happening again?
Yes, and that is something that they are looking into acquiring.
Okay, so when will we see that request?
Hopefully next month.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Item E is Platinum Equipment LLC for $396,194. This is for the construction services, filtration, and equipment for the paint booth for the collision repair program at the downtown West Campus. This project includes a double paint prep booth, a double paint booth, and a paint mixing room, and collaboration with the architect for filtration of the paint booth. Bid 24-22 D06 downtown campus paint equipment was released September 4th, 2024. 163 vendors were notified of the bid release. The college received one submittal.
Any questions, comments, discussion, Paul?
Only one? Did you have any, you didn't, this was the only one?
One proper bid submittal was received, yes.
No, how many were received? Not proper
One,
or
wasn't
whatever.
And we received one email.
There were, my understanding, yes, it was, Karen's not here, but yes, it was this one, and then we received an email.
I
Okay.
didn't hear that.
Did you receive any questions on it or any requests for extensions?
We received a request for extension. We received one. And questions, I'm not sure. I'd have to find out on the questions. I know only one person showed up to the pre-bid.
Okay.
Any other?
Well, I don't see this, okay, in my own line of work, very often there's equipment that I like, but I don't isolate it to that, and I don't call it out necessarily in the bid other than, and I'll just use a real example, the Shure wireless microphone systems, okay? And plus some other stuff. And I said, but if you have an alternative that meets the same specs, just file it with their, the price along with the specs and maybe a review in your bid response, and and we'll consider that equal. Was there anything in this bid that called out specifically? Did it either call out a specific product or did it define the specifications for what you wanted?
It defined 3 products. So what happens is we typically go to our subject matter experts, which in this case is the faculty, and say, what type of paint booth do you think would be best to teach the students with? What type are you most comfortable with, most familiar with, does the best job, et cetera. And they tell us who that is. It's ABC, whoever it is. Then we go, okay, great. Now, if you can't get that one, who's the next one? And they said, well, no, I want this one. And we say, we understand that, but we need to go out typically with 3 vendors. So who's your second favorite? So they tell us. Who's your third favorite? And they tell us. So when we write up the specs, in this case, we write them up off of the, we write them up based on general information because we don't necessarily know which vendor is going to get the bid because there's 3 of them out there. So they write them up and they go out to bid, and the installers typically have to contact the manufacturer to get all the finalized design stuff, because I don't know much about paint booths, but some have updrafts, some have downdrafts, et cetera. And that's how we do it, and we release the bids that way. That's, I guess that's the process we follow.
So you had 3 in this particular one? Okay. Do you know of and so you had 3 specific solutions, and essentially you knew you either were looking for a reseller or distributor of the solution, and then the installation thereof, right? Okay. Do you know if the vendors were contacted by any potential people here and receive the information they need so they could respond to our RFP properly?
The vendors, the main vendor that the instructor wanted was contacted just to better understand their equipment, to see what the vendor was providing. I do not believe they contacted the other 2.
But you don't know whether or not the other, I mean, and you're talking about the platinum was.
I'm talking about they would have contacted whoever the manufacturer of the item is. Yeah, what is it? Global Finishing Solutions, that's who they contacted.
Okay. and you don't know if they did or not, or if they got responses back from Global, or... What I'm trying to determine is if the vendor of the specific hardware or solution responded in a timely fashion to the people who wanted to respond to the RFP.
I don't know.
And how much time was this RFP put out for?
September 4th through September 25th, so 21 days.
Yeah, not 21 business days, though. Do you think that's enough time to work with another vendor to pull together information and then get any questions that they may have answered here?
I can't say one way or the other. I would have to ask the architects, or I would have to ask our CMR to find out. Some things are very quick, some things aren't.
Are all bids that long? Are all bids 21 days, or do we do some bids?
Well, some bids are 2 weeks, some bids are 4 weeks, some bids are 3 weeks. It just varies, depending on what basically the designers think is reasonable and what the construction manager thinks is reasonable. Or if we're going out for computers, what we think is reasonable. It just depends on what we're going out for.
I would imagine any vendor would have jumped on this thing like right away if they were interested. I mean, 21 days is a long time to have a response back. So you got one response, that's your call.
Well, not unless they had to get questions answered from an intermediate vendor.
I'm sorry?
Or unless they had to get questions answered from an intermediate vendor, or the intermediate vendor chose not to respond at all. And this is just...
That would be part of a communication process.
Right.
If I'm wrong. So like if they're not communicating with you, how much time do you normally allow them?
Right. Did you have anybody ask for an extension because they weren't getting the answers from the vendor?
We had one vendor ask for an extension, yes.
Okay. Okay.
The problem is we can't control the communication between vendor and whoever they're talking about, whether it's 5 days or 5 weeks. That part is out of our control, right?
No, not really, because if you choose a product line and you have to let them know, I would let the people that are selling, that have the product that you're interested in, you're going to be approached by people, and we would appreciate you have any prompt response to any technical questions that they may have. Did that communication go out to the 3 named vendors or the manufacturers in the RFP?
I would have to check with the design team. I don't know.
Okay.
Gloria, you had a comment?
Well, maybe you already answered the question. I'm trying to understand the back and forth here. It seems to me that if we only got one response, is it because this is a highly technical, skilled piece of equipment that only one person out of 163 can do? Or, the 163, are they all kind of in that same field? Is that something that I guess I'm trying to understand?
They would have been vendors that typically install these type of things.
Okay.
So, who were the 163? But it's going to be a list of the manufacturers. It's going to be the list of anybody that's in the BEP database for the state of Illinois. We get that from them. Anyone that, if the CMR has somebody, if we hear from somebody on the street that they like to do paint booths, we'll add them to our list, and then we just blanket and send it out to everyone. But is a paint booth a particular skill set that's highly qualified? I don't know. I don't know much about paint booths.
Nico?
Is this an industrial grade paint booth, or what type of?
Yeah, it would be a paint booth about the size of this space right here
Okay.
that you could kind of walk into.
And then obviously regular dimensions for the painting facility. Or the paint.
There's a paint prep area, I guess, and then
Okay.
the paint booth.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, and this is work that sheet metal workers and millwrights do all the time, so I'm not quite sure.
Well, we did notify 6 of them beforehand. 6, right, Craig?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
You notified 6 millwrights and HVAC?
There were 6 contractors, some of them were sheet metal contractors, and some of them were.
And that was before the bid, right?
It was as the bid went out.
Okay, it was as the bid went out. Our CMR contacted 6, specifically told them about it, asked them.
Some were contacted shortly below, some.
Now, was there some discussion about one of the vendors out of the 3, or maybe more than one, that wouldn't allow their product to be installed by anybody other than their own installers?
Yes.
Okay, is that the winning one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they said they have to be installed by factory certified personnel.
What about the other, so no other bids came in for the alternative solutions?
No.
Okay, okay. Was this the first choice for your team?
This was the first choice for the faculty member, yes.
Okay, all right. And is there a reason this vendor won't allow anybody else to install their product?
From my understanding, they were concerned about warranty issues and making sure it was properly installed.
So they would not approve the warranty if their certified installers would not install the product. Is that correct?
That is the understanding that I took from the architects.
And I would think you'd want to buy equipment and have it properly installed in order to ensure the warranty. Otherwise, we could come up with other problems down the road. So to me, I don't know what other course of action to recommend other than moving forward with this recommendation.
Well, to me, in my past business dealings, this would be close to steering or bid rigging, where we have a contract, a manufactured product, and an installer that are inseparable, that you can't separate them from, and you kind of push and arrange for it to happen that way. And I don't know if it's, that happened in this case, but I've been questioned on it through FOIAs and other things, and had to process them for other departments and the like. And and I think I've mentioned it here before. I'm pretty big on being open and transparent, and not, even if you don't have to go out for bid for something, it's kind of nice to go out for quotes just to keep everybody honest and everything like that. Did you know going into this that this vendor wouldn't allow anybody else to install their product?
Did we find that out beforehand or during? Was it before? Okay. Yeah, we found out beforehand.
Okay.
Which is why we were counting on the other 2 vendors.
Well, why would
including
you
them.
include them if they weren't going to be open and transparent and allow somebody else to work on it? Again, it's a paint booth. It's not going to, well, even nuclear facilities have a variety of people working on them. It isn't rocket science, so I'm trying to figure out why.
Okay, can we kind of move on?
No,
Is there some recommendation?
This bid doesn't meet our requirements, so I would throw it out. We have to go back to scratch. We got to go back and rebid it.
Well, I don't see how you can untie the warranty issue from the equipment selection.
You find a vendor that allows qualified people to install it, either supervised or unsupervised according to their specifications.
Well,
I've had to do this in the past with other technology. This isn't really much different than that. Where a vendor would want to bring in their team and maybe sometimes dispatch a supervisor over a team of installers, and not me, because I wouldn't be the specialist in it.
Crystal?
Let's just say if we decide that we want to do that and go that route, does this delay anything? Does this cost us more? Who are we going to be waiting for bids if the first ones didn't go out and this decide to go out? Is this going to cost anything more later down the road? Are we going to lose this person if we say, hey, we're not satisfied with this? does this delay the process of opening dates, installation? Like, give me a little synopsis of what that would look like.
So the reason we had to go out to bid for the paint booth right now, which seems a little odd to go out for a paint booth this early, was because we needed to know what the design was going to be so that the architects can finish the design. Because there are variations to paint booths and how big they are and where they fit and things of that nature. So we need to know what paint booth it is so that they can try and finish the design so that we can go out to bid for the HVAC and other things, because the paint booth has ties. I don't know exactly how. I'm not an architect or an engineer, but has ties into the HVAC and other factors that need to be finalized before we can design it. So will it delay the project? Yes.
Okay, so you're telling, so if I understand this correctly, the requirements that is needed for this paint booth specifically for this classroom, for this education purposes, this was the only person that met every single one of those requirements to do it correctly.
So this is the only one that
This is
submitted
the only
a bid.
one, right? Nobody else came into the mix
Nobody else submitted a,
for this specific requirements, correct?
correct.
Okay.
So based on that, I think we move on and move forward. Yes, sir, Richard, sorry?
This is for Ringland Johnson. Obviously, you guys were a part of the Harlem School project, what had something similar educational opportunities in regards to the paint shop.
The Harlem CT building did not include collision and painting.
Okay.
They just included the lifts and working on the engines and the cars. So we didn't have that as part of this project.
So you didn't have this problem there in regards to the RBO and the locals being involved?
Not on the paint booth, no.
No, I'm talking about, because we're talking about going forward too with the lifts and different specialty equipment there also.
The lifts were similar, but the decision was made by the district to acquire the lifts directly, and they weren't part of the construction manager agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
So just to reiterate with you, it will stall everything going to redo this again. Everything with the paint booth.
It will delay the design, yes. It will stall the project.
Which will, okay.
Paul?
Well, then I would have actually then anticipated that this vendor wouldn't meet the responsible bidder ordinance and then later going to be pitched to change it for it. And it's not because it's a specialty product, it's because it looks like you had a vendor in mind and it was crafted for that, and that's you got the one vendor. So I say it's not because of us or any decision we make here. It's because it's bad planning or a bad communication early on within the institution here. I'd say you have to go back and build out a spec that would meet our existing ordinance without have to doing an end round around it for it, just to make the architect happy. And if the architect can't continue with the other plans, not knowing what the finalized design, like how much difference in the layout of this, in the venting and the like, might there be?
I have no idea. I'm not designing the space.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think from the board standpoint, in my opinion, we're getting way too deep in managing a project, and I don't think that's our role. So I'd like to move on to the next item, please. Yes, sir, John?
Thank you, Bob. I'd respectfully disagree. I look at this $369,000. That's a pretty big bid, and I think we ought to do everything we can to make sure that it's done right. This board certainly went on with what I would assume would be some delay when we went from one building, and we were told that all one building's a lot cheaper than two buildings. That's why we can't put automotive out at the ATC Center in Belvedere. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, oh no, we have to have two buildings. Otherwise, it'll cost us a fortune in moving utilities. Not what I would call something that shouldn't have been maybe thought of on the uptick with the money we're spending. And I have the same feeling here. A bid this large, if it were even $100,000, Bob, I might be more persuaded. But this is some real money, and it just does not. For me, it just doesn't seem logical. What I've been told so far, and this wouldn't be the first time that those kinds of things came before the board. Probably not the last. But for $396,194, I'm willing to go the extra mile. Thank you.
Okay. No other comments? I think we kind of beat this one up. Let's move on to the next item, next purchase item.
Okay, next item is Purchase Report B, which is an FY25 amendment. This is for Terracon Consultants. This is an increase of $45,500, not to exceed $50,000. Terracon was initially engaged to conduct a geophysical survey of the downtown west site for $4,500 and is scheduled to conduct testing for the contaminated soils during the demolition process. It was uncertain at that time if the cost would exceed $25,000, and we don't know at this time what those costs will be. The board approval is needed now because Terracon is also certified to conduct State Historical Preservation Office, or SHPCO, investigations, and was able to quickly assist RVC in moving forward to meet the requirements of SHPO. The estimated cost of the SHPO documentation is $23,000 to $24,000. The SHPO work combined with the geophysical survey will now push the amount over to the $25,000 threshold, even if we do not need them to conduct any soil test. Are there any questions on this purchase report?
Not this one, but.
Nope. Yep, John, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Well, I'm kind of out of sight here, and I've got this black coat on.
I'm not looking like I should either, so thank you.
Ellen, now is this, we're going from not to exceed $25,000 to not to exceed $50,000? Is that, do I have that right in my mind, or am I missing something?
You're missing something. It had not come to the board for approval because at the time it was initially only $4,500. Now when we contracted with Terracon for the soil testing, even then we did not expect it to exceed $25,000. But due to the investigation that Terracon did to comply with SHPCO, we are now exceeding that $25,000 limit, and with an estimate of maybe $25,000 for soil testing, we're asking for a do not exceed of $50,000.
So we are blasting it up times 10. And I don't suppose, at least I can't think of any way around doing what you're telling us that we have to do. But again, I don't know that these kinds of things were not foreseeable. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I believe SHPCO was not foreseeable.
Pardon me?
The SHPCO investigation was not foreseeable. It was unexpected.
The what was?
It says
SHPCO, State Historical Preservation Office requirements. Rick, you want to explain?
You say tomato, I say tomato.
Okay, moving on.
Hold on, I just have one issue, Ellen. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit because when you were going through A, B, and C, I couldn't find the paperwork. But my issue is with, we're going to go back a little bit, with the snow removal services.
Yes.
Okay. I do not like that we're going with the Cicero. You guys all know how I feel about supporting local businesses, and I think that we need to go with the Minahan's Tree Service. I see that the company is very well known in Belvedere. They do a lot of exceptional work. They work with the city of Belvedere. And I feel like every time it comes to this ATC, we go through somebody else outside the city limits or outside, local. And I don't.
$10.
It's $10.
$10.
And I think, yes, go ahead, sorry.
I think, yes, sir, Paul.
So I'd entertain, at the appropriate time in the next meeting, which will be in Belvedere.
Yeah.
A motion to, make that change, because at least all 6 of these bidders are responsible bidders, unlike the one for the paint booth, which doesn't even meet our responsible bidder ordinance. So, yeah, I'd be glad to do that.
I think that we need to, if it's possible.
I think we've made exceptions
And make
in
an
the
exception
past.
to go with
I think we
Minahan's
have
free
made
service.
exceptions for $10, certainly.
Yes, so we just make the recommendation. You guys you'll make the amendment at the
Make
board
it-
meeting
right.
and vote on it.
Okay, just so we know. Thank you.
Well,
Good catch.
bring your billfold.
Yeah.
Slap that 10 bucks.
I sure will, yes.
We could
Okay,
take up a,
moving
we
on.
could take
All
up a
right, moving on to
collection.
the cash and investment report.
Thank you.
Operating cash and investments increased $6.7 million from August 31st to just over $88.1 million as of September 30th, 2024. Capital funds increased $4.4 million to $36.1 million due to property tax receipts received during the month of September. Total operating cash and investments is at 86.61% of operating budget as of September 30th of 2024. Are there any questions?
Yes, sir, John?
Thank you. Ellen, can you, so we went, if I got this right, we went up, right?
Correct.
And is that from real estate tax revenue in September, or why did we go up? And
Part of it is due to,
Pardon me?
it's due to a couple things. One, on the operating fund, it is due to real estate tax revenue coming in because they received their September payments at the beginning of the month and they have passed them on through to the college. And also at this time of the year, we're seeing more activity in receiving payments for grants and that kind of thing right now coming in as well.
All right, thank you.
I think just to make note, on the back side of this report, the numbers I always watch is the ratio, and we're consistently 80% or so coverage. And to me, that tells me we're healthy. To me, that's the most important number of all of these. It's the ratio of coverage of your expenses.
Do you agree with that, Ellen?
I do. Cash is king, don't they say that?
Our target is what, 30? I forget the number, 30%?
No, that is, that's our net assets to
Yeah.
our expenses.
No,
That's
but
a
what is
different
this
line.
ratio target?
We do not have a target here at the college set for it,
I
but
thought we had a number like 30 or 40%.
that's,
Not a target, but a minimum. Anything above it is good.
it's good.
Right. Okay, thank you.
All right,
Move
the
on.
next item is the 2024 tax levy and setting a date for the truth and taxation hearing. Just so you know, there was an amendment to the notice requirements of the Illinois Truth and Tax Law that require taxing districts to post a website notice for a period of not less than 30 consecutive days. And the law still requires that notice is published in a newspaper of not more than 14 days, but not less than 7 days prior to the date of the public hearing. Due to this change, I am bringing the 2024 tax levy setting date for the Truth and Taxation hearing to the board in October, and the public hearing will occur December 17th to accommodate the new posting requirements. The proposed tax levy amount is expected to increase $2.9 million, or 12.14%, for the property tax extension. The debt service extension will increase $158,439, or 1.32%, for a combined extension to increase $3,078,678, or 8.54%. I do also want to share with you that we received authorization from ICCB for a special tax levy of an additional 1.79%, and we are not recommending that we use that this year. The tax levy rate in total is a decrease of 0.0081. However, this does not include the new bond funding that cannot be determined until the bonds are issued. Anticipated increase is 0.027. The key driver is the increase in EAV. The 2023 EAV increased higher than originally projected. I had forecasted a conservative 6% EAV for 2023, when the actual was 9.89% for the district. Meanwhile, Winnebago, Ogle, and McHenry counties have provided their 2024 EAV estimates. They are increasing by 11.36%. And Winnebago County alone is increasing by 12.73%, and they represent 69% of the total EAV. Boone County has not posted their EAV report for the district. I am understanding or hearing that the increase ranges are ranging between 12 to 14% in Boone County. I do not expect the EAVs to continue to increase at this pace. The counties are completing their quad-year assessment, adjusting the current market values based on a 3-year average for all properties in them. One additional note I just wanted to share is, in order to be eligible for the ICCB equalization grant, colleges must tax at 95% of their legal maximum operating tax rate. And those rates for Rock Valley College are for the education is 0.23, which was approved in referendum in 1985, and operations and maintenance at 0.04, which was approved in referendum in 1972. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Nope, we're good.
It's nice to see the red line drop again, tax
Yes.
rate. That affects your real estate taxes, as you know. Any other questions on, you got some more, Ellen, huh? No, you're
Yeah,
done.
I'm not done yet. Bob.
Oh, you're not done. You got a bond thing,
Trustee Nelson has a question.
bond parameter. Sorry, John.
I know Bob likes all these figures. I like the big picture assessment, if we can get it, which is what did all of what you just said, what does that mean for, we trustees who are less knowledgeable than you finance wizards in terms of how's the college doing with this? And, I have not forgotten the projected decrease in our revenues that I was advised of, I think of 2024 through 2026. Is that just not going to come to fruition? Or how do we stand, Ellen? Can you give me a brief overall assessment of where we stand?
Sure, this tax levy is an increase in dollars of revenue to the college. And the tax levy rate is slightly going down, but unfortunately our taxpayers will receive a higher bill because their EAV on their properties have increased. As far as revenues for the college, this will be additional revenue in the future budgets to help offset some of the increase in expenses. We'll have to see how the budgets play out and when we start preparing them for fiscal year 26. As far as the 10-year forecast, I do not recall what my projection was exactly for real estate property taxes, but I got the feeling that I was on the conservative side in the 10-year forecast, only projecting maybe a 5% increase in EAV.
But explain the piece about the legislation from 72 and 85 and why that is significant when it comes to budgeting.
Repeat that one more time.
Explain the legislation you mentioned from 1972 and 1985 at the end, and why is that significant? Why did you mention that?
So those were the rates that we went to Rock Valley College went to referendum for back in those years. So those current rates of 0.23 and 0.04, we have to, if anyone asks about why is our tax rate or levy the way it is, we have to assess at least 95% of those rates, the 0.23 and 0.04, to qualify for the Illinois equalization grants that we also receive here at the college, which runs between $5 and $6 million a year of
So if we
revenue.
don't do that, we lose that funding.
We lose that funding.
I'm not inclined to want to do that.
No. So are there any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you, Ellen.
Next item, Ellen.
The last item I have for you this
Bond
evening
resolution.
is the bond parameter resolution. As you know, we are moving forward with issuing maximum amount to be issued is $14.7 million in bonds for CL2 and HSC. The bond parameter resolution is for the issuance of these bonds. The resolution requires board approval and includes some of the following: is the maximum amount to be issued, which is the $14.7 million. It also includes manner of sale, length of maturity, rates of interest, and the tax levy for bond repayment. Are there any questions regarding this?
We don't have to publicly, go ahead, John.
Thank you, Bob. I know we've had some discussion in the past about interest rates, and I've noticed that interest rates are slightly decreasing. Is this one of the reasons we're issuing this now, or is this just in the normal course because we need to bank that money to get our money from the state?
This $14.7 million has been in our normal course. Fortunately, interest rates are going down right now, and our goal was to get these bonds issued before the election.
Isn't my understanding that you need this in order to match up with the CCB monies?
Correct. This is also to repay
keep
us
the project
for
rolling
the
forward.
CDB money.
So that's why we're doing it now.
Is that right?
The next bonds will be issued probably, I'm going to say late spring next year,
Yeah.
and that's the much larger bonding that we will do.
So we're not going to do that before the election?
Not the 50-some million, no.
And are we going to do that before the next election of trustees?
It depends on.
Well, you might want to think seriously about that.
April 4th. April 4th next year.
Thank you, Bob.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to operations.
Good
Trustee
job.
Kennedy.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Alan, very much. A lot of good stuff there, a lot of numbers.
Go ahead, Rick. Go ahead and present the operations report.
Rick.
Thank you, Trustee Kennedy. The first item is personnel report. As you can see, there's one appointee there, Rebecca Lampert. This is for Executive Director of Community and Continuing Ed, and she is projected to begin October 28th, 2024. No questions on that. I'm actually going to turn it over to my colleague, Erica Huntley, for the next presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Rick.
Good evening, trustees.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You have received the executive summary for the FY24 Annual Human Resources Report. You have received the FY24 Annual Report, and I will take the time right now to provide you with an executive summary. As of June 30th, 2024, the college has had a total of 405 full-time employees. This is a 3.8% increase from the past fiscal year. Notably, we have made strides to build our police force to full staff to best suit the needs of our community. The college has also documented a total of 106 full-time employee appointments, indicating an increase of 8.2% appointments made from the past fiscal year. Our promotions increased 127% from FY23 to FY24. This is reflective of meeting goals of our Pillar 3 of providing exceptional training experiences for our employees. We had a total of 46 separations, 7 of which were retirements. This indicates an 8% decline in separations from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24. The full-time employee turnover rate was 11.4% for fiscal year 24, and we continue to experience declining turnover from 2022 to present, post-COVID. One of our goals of the college is to have an employee group that is comparable in ethnicity and gender as the district in which we serve. We continue to monitor the disaggregated full-time employee population and evaluate ways in which we can recruit diverse talent to best serve our college. As far as some highlights from Human Resources, we will continue to promote exceptional training opportunities through the development of our Golden Eagles Leadership Academy, supervisor training, and hiring committee and implicit bias training. Additionally, Human Resources continues to evaluate the needs of our employee population and provide new and relevant supplemental benefits, such as short-term disability, Spring Health Mental Wellness, Norton LifeLock ID theft insurance, and ASPCA pet insurance. Are there any questions that I can answer this evening?
Nope.
John?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Bob. I have heard some complaints from constituents that we have too many adjunct professors who are not as dedicated as our tenured professors, at least many of whom have retired. Is there some place in here that tells me how many adjunct professors that we do have?
This report was based upon full-time employees, so it would not include the adjunct employees.
Do you know how many adjunct professors we do have?
Off the top of my head, no, but I can gather that information for you.
Well, thank you. I'd appreciate that. And otherwise, very good.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I'd make one or two. I would note, though, the number of full-time employees, when you look at the five-year trend chart, I mean, it's 365 in 2020, and now we're at 405. So we are adding full-time employees through the last 5 years.
Including faculty over adjunct faculty as well.
Yes.
We've increased the number of full-time
Understand.
faculty.
And then the second thing is the turnover rate. I mean, yes, it dropped the last 2 years, but if you look at the whole period, it's kind of like this. It's sort of staying in a range, which is kind of healthy. Yeah, I have no other comments.
It was a little high, but I agree with you.
A little high, but it's still in there. Okay. Do we have any other updates? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terica.
Board policy. Mr. Rick.
There are two board policy items. The first one would be a recommendation for the adjustment of the purchasing policy 510-120. If you read through the policy statement, it lists the existing information for the responsible bidder ordinance that currently exists, and then has the proposed additional language to the responsible bidder fifth criterion is that participation in an apprenticeship and training program shall not apply to construction contracts for the installation or work of any specialty equipment where the manufacturer of such equipment requires the manufacturer's employees or certified technicians to installer, to perform such an installation or work in order to provide a warranty on the equipment. If the college receives bids from contractors that participate in the apprentice and training programs that meet this fifth criterion, such contractors can perform the installation or work in a manner that will keep the manufacturer's warranty in place. The college will give preference to said bidders so long as the preference does not violate the requirements of the Community College Act procurement statute.
Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This seems just to blow apart the RBO just because it's opening for this one, and it's not even a specialty piece of agreement or product or the like. And we've already heard, so we're changing our policy, which isn't necessary actually to advance a vote on this, and I'll talk to that right after this. But this is like the cherry on the top of a bid steering project. You already heard we had staff and an architect and a construction manager and staff here. They're all kind of preferred this. The resulting thing looked like it was just the preferred one, and now we're actually changing our ordinance to make it go through. This opens us up to potential lawsuit, it looks like we're preferring particular vendor, whether or not it was RBO or not, and directing it towards it. Now, for smaller purchases and the like, or some technology stuff, you don't need to go through the bid process, and we've discussed that in previous meetings. But as Trustee Nelson mentioned, this is almost a $400,000 installation according to that bid, and I don't see us changing our rules to kind of just direct it towards something, this is what I want type of thing, where we have rules to follow for a reason. Also, this ordinance isn't required. I hate to give ammunition to people, to go around the RBO, but you could always make a motion to suspend the rules in advance of the vote and then vote to do it. So you don't actually need to change the thing permanently. And then that would force the board then to, on a case-per-case basis, make your case to, sell. You could always make your recommendation pending a motion to suspend the rules and put that in the agenda for future items that you might feel need. But I would hope it would never come to that. So I'm really worried that this opens us up to a perception that we're preferring vendors and doing an end around not only responsible bidder, but just proper bidding processes. So thank you.
John?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Rick, does it seem to you that this proposed change in policy, board policy, will eviscerate the responsible bidder ordinance we just passed? And to me, it certainly does. But what is the policy reason beside this, or for this? Is this a desire on the part of the administration to do this? Is it an anti-labor way of getting around things? Because I'm just a country lawyer from Rockford, Illinois, but it sure seems to me that you're opening the floodgates. At every piece of machinery we bid on is going to not have to follow the responsible bidder ordinance because, oh, geez, we can't get the warranty if we don't have non-union labor associated with some company that's associated with a warranty. It doesn't seem like it seems fairly straightforward to me that that's what we're doing, and I certainly won't support that. And in fact, I think that it's foolish for the administration to want to push this early, since our responsible bidder ordinance is only, is it even a year old? I'm not sure, but I just don't think that this is the right policy to adopt. Thank you.
Okay. It may be possible that what we should do is pull back the purchase change and table it for a vote next week, 2 weeks from now, and move forward with the paint booth. Got it?
Yes, that's fine.
Nickel?
Oh, no, I meant the singing, too. It was a little distracting, too.
Yeah.
It's somebody practicing singing, and we have to have an open door meeting, so we can't shut the doors.
Which is fine. I just didn't know if it was coming from the speakers.
If you really want to be distracted, I'll stay.
The singing is happening outside,
Yes.
but it sounded like it was coming from the speakers.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
May I be allowed to practice my wonderful singing?
No.
I'd be out of order. I guess you're right.
So, Bob, you're suggesting this item won't be on the agenda next meeting?
That's what I'm suggesting, yes. And we'll vote on the paint booth independently as an exception.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay? Sound reasonable?
Yep, sounds good.
Good, Paul?
Well, I'd like to, since we know it doesn't, well, okay.
I think the
It
reason-
isn't okay. I mean, if we know something doesn't meeting policy, I mean, you can put it on the agenda. I mean, that's your prerogative as the chair. You can set the agenda. So you do what you want. If I was chair, I wouldn't put it on there, and I'd instruct staff to get going on a new bid. If we're really behind schedule, move on with the bid. I mean, go out for another RFP. It meets our responsible bidder ordinance.
Yeah, Crystal?
No, we're good. I just,
You good?
I thought she was flashing me. I was getting mad. She waves to me when they come in. Now she's like, shut up, shut up, shut up.
Okay. We all set? Next item,
So
Rick?
the next item is the second reading of the board policy manual that was presented at the last committee of the whole and board meeting. This is the exact same information as before, except for the change that was discussed at the last board meeting. So that information is now reflected in the articles that Attorney Pekowski spoke to at the last meeting.
So you're doing the second reading now, right?
Yes.
So were there any changes from the first reading?
Yes, there was one. It was the one that was discussed at the last meeting.
Okay.
About the, I can't remember what it was now. I'm drawing a blank.
Free speech issue, that one?
It's a,
Yeah.
it's section 1:10.040, section 8.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion on this item?
No, I think that's what we talked about. I'm
Okay.
glad to see it.
I got you. Next item, Rick?
Next item is a CL2 update. This will just be a verbal update. We have received official notification from CDB that CL2 will use Blakely Edward Design from Chicago. We've never worked with them, like I said before, but we're looking forward to it. And we have also recently learned that CDB has released an RFQ for commissioning and testing for the project. So they are moving forward at this point. But I suspect, although I don't know for sure, that they're probably still negotiating with the architect firm.
Well, that's progress, right?
It is progress.
What was the name of them again? The architect?
The name of the architect firm is Bailey Edward Design, Inc. from Chicago. They're, and I looked them up, they're like downtown Chicago.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The next item on here is the change order update. Pardon me, I gotta grab it real quick. So this is a list of the change orders for different projects. The first one is the Building E floor upgrade. This is actually a good change order. We did not use this money, so we are getting it back as a credit, I guess. Is that right, Ellen? Credit? We'll go with that. We're getting it back because we didn't use it. We didn't use any of the contingency money. The second item is the contingency for the abatement downtown west campus. That one, during the demolition of 327 South Winnebago, they found an additional wall that they believed had asbestos in it. And when they tested it, it came back positive for asbestos. So we authorized them to remove that wall, and it was an additional cost of $3,165. That project is almost complete. They're at 720 Chestnut right now doing the abatement there. The next item is for the Lot 1 and walkways construction. This one's a little busier. If you recall, I'd come to the board requesting permission to spend an additional $15,535 in cubic yards of gravel to go underneath the base of the roads. They ended up not needing that much, which was good, so that saved us got us a credit back of $2,210, so it only ended up being about $13,000 extra. We did have to add a storm sewer inlet. That was $3,100. We had to add a concrete small step to make it safe, which was $1,500. But we are also able to remove or deduct some concrete work, which was actually a credit back of $1,180. And then so finally, if you add all of those items up, we will be getting back $45,446.95 in unused contingency from that project.
John?
What was the total that we did spend on change orders? Is it, it should be listed there, but I can't see it.
I'd have to, apologize, I guess we didn't add those up. We just added up the total credit we're getting back, but.
Well, we like the credits.
I do too. Oh, it's right there, yeah. I'm sorry, it is on my document, I just didn't see it. It's 16,805.
Right at the bottom here.
Oh, well,
We can't see it on this one, but it's there.
well,
hey, the screen's
you
back.
said 16,000?
Yeah, 16,805.
John, right there.
Well, that doesn't, that's good, isn't it?
I think so.
Well, very good.
Thank you.
I didn't see it either.
So those are all the change orders, and the final item is the Rock Valley College events calendar, which is in your packet. There are 3 items. There's a lot going on. Fall semester is always busy, but a couple of things that I will note. October 10th, we will be having the RVC 60th anniversary celebrations in a couple different areas on campus. I recommend, if you can make it, to come. In addition, on the 17th, the RVC alumni and retiree lunch will be held in the atrium. And we will be having, and I know Bob will like this, on the 18th, we'll be having another ATC Manufacturing Day out at the Advanced Technology Center.
And who's coming to that?
Meridian, and I think,
Meridian, and he thinks, I'm repeating it in the microphone.
I'll have to check. Harlem.
Is that the one on the 18th?
Harlem.
Yes, the one in the,
Okay. Gotta
Harlem
get
and
really bad.
and Meridian?
yes.
Yes.
And who came on the 4th?
Boylan,
Boylan,
Honeydean.
Hananiga,
Onega?
Byron,
And not 205?
and District 100.
District 205 they're coming at the end of the month.
Oh, they are?
At the last meeting.
He says District 205 is coming at the end of the month. I'm just repeating everything because they don't have mics
They had
here.
a planned visit already.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the calendar? John?
Well, thank you, Bob. You can call me Question Box here. Rick, the specific things that you mentioned, has attendance been good, or do you anticipate attendance would be good for those events? Or are you trying to get like more trustees to go, or what?
Well, our 60th, we've never had before, but, you know, so I would just like to see trustees there because it's kind of an important day for the college, you know. The other ones, the retiree lunch, they're usually well attended, but it's always nice when the retirees and the alumni can see the board members because you're part of just as much a part of the college as the people who are there. And as far as the ATC, we like to point that out because it's relatively new, and we always appreciate it when our board can come to those events and show support for the programs at any facility.
All right, well, thank you.
Makes sense.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, but I'm in the mood, so I won't talk. So kidding.
You're in the mood for what?
Nothing. I'm good.
No, he's saying nothing, Bob.
Nothing,
saying
okay,
nothing.
we'll say, leave it at that.
Hey, Bob,
Thank
I
you.
do.
Go
I have
ahead.
could you explain what the First Generation Speaker Series is and what does it cover?
Dr. Pyre will be able to explain.
It's red. Hearing me? Oh, okay, sorry. The First Generation Speaker Series, we've been doing that now for about 2 or 3 years. We invite faculty and staff members who happen to be first generation college students themselves to share their experiences with our current students who are also likely very much first-generation college students as well. So it's personal stories, their journeys into and through higher education, stories of support and triumph and overcoming obstacles.
Good.
And Dr. Spearman was one of our speakers probably, 2 years ago?
Yes, sir, 2 years ago.
There you go.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. Good question.
Thank you.
Is that helpful?
Very,
like
very, thank you.
Anything
I
else
didn't
on
know
the
what
calendar?
generation I was at, so it's like, at my age.
The best generation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Any unfinished business, new business?
Yes, Chairman Trojan, I want to, before I provide my unfinished business, I'll hand it over to Vice President Snyder to speak to HLC once again.
Thank you. I just want to remind the trustees that we have breakfast with the Higher Learning Commission on Tuesday, October 15th from 7:30 to 8:45 a.m. That'll be in this building upstairs on the second floor, room 2416. At the same time, we have some community members coming for breakfast. They'll be in a separate room, but you may see them arriving as well. I'll try to have someone in the lobby for both trustees and the community to direct them upstairs. And thank you to everyone. I think everyone's RSVP'd either yes or no, so I appreciate that for planning. Thank you.
Thank you.
So is this where the interchange goes on between the trustees and the HL? Okay.
Yes.
And so that's an open meeting, and that'll have an agenda, but it will be basically HLC discussion.
Right.
Okay.
And there's no objection to have some written comments for the HLC representative and hand them over to them, is there?
No, no objection to that.
Okay.
Okay.
They might be interested in steering.
Well, Bob, I want you on your best behavior. I know you will be.
Well, thank you, John. I'll try. I'll try real hard for you.
All right, so my additional updates. Last meeting we spoke about, I shared with you about Mercury presenting to us. Lobbyist firm also provided opportunities for grant writing, things of that nature. And I believe we're waiting, Trustee Nelson, you may have some, you were talking about potential other contacts that you may want to share. Please provide that to us if there's somebody else you want us to consider.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Also, again, we just spoke about October being Manufacturing Month, so we'll have our next board meeting at the ATC. I also want to thank trustees for attending the ICTA report. I know we usually talk about that, the ICTA regional meeting, excuse me. But we got a lot of positive feedback regarding that, and they were impressed with the attendance. They thought it was great to have so many trustees come in. The trustees and others around the region really wanted to see the Advanced Technology Center, and they were very impressed and provided a lot of positive feedback regarding that, and kudos to Dr. Stewart's team for providing those tours as well. But I just want to thank you, everybody who was able to attend that event. And then my last update is really hot off the press. We have Congressman Krishna Murthy. Please forgive me if I mispronounced that name, but he's planning to come. He would like to be at the ATC on Friday to discuss CTE, to have a CTE roundtable event around the reauthorization of the Perkins Act, and we receive a lot of Perkins dollars. We're talking 15 to 20 people or so that's planning to participate. And Jennifer, is there a part I'm missing?
ACEC, not ATC.
Oh, did I say ATC? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Aviation Career Education Center. So forgive me. We just found out about it, so I'm sharing it with you so you're not surprised by it. We'll learn more about it, but at this point, he'll be inviting some of the other congressmen and legislators to have this roundtable discussion regarding career technical education and specifically Perkins. and how that was a benefit to us.
John?
Thank you, Bob. I chaired a meeting and when he applied for the vacancy for a lieutenant governor when our lieutenant governor had to assume the role of governor. And we put him forward as a potential nominee, very well qualified. And if it's the same guy, which I'm sure it is, he always, when he does his campaign speech, he will always say, my name is, and he'll tell you what his name is, but people call me, I'll be the best congressman or whatever, so you can just call me that. And, but he is, ambitious isn't the right word, but he is a force of nature. And I think we ought to really pay attention when he comes. And I haven't been invited to the meeting, but I'd be happy to go.
All right, and he represents Illinois 8th District, so he doesn't represent our district, but he's doing it, he's been doing these roundtables throughout the state of Illinois, so that we're...
Does he sit on any aviation committees in Congress? Is that why he has an interest, or we don't know?
Not that I'm aware of. And we're still learning why he's interested in having the roundtable at the aviation, at the hangar itself.
It's just CTE. It's just career and
Yeah.
Because it's a heck of a good facility with AAR right in the back door.
Well, I'd like to let him know that I'm here.
Yes, well, when we get the details, we'll let you know. We don't have all the details as far as timing and all that, but I'm sharing it with you in advance. So it'll be sometime Friday afternoon. We know that much, but we haven't figured out a specific date, or excuse me, a specific time, but I'll be sure to share it with you.
You said it was this Friday?
This coming Friday,
Okay.
sometime in the afternoon.
Well, you know what? This just goes back to what we were saying earlier about how we are leading the charge in a lot of areas. And so I think just when was it, 2 years ago, last year, that we were recognized nationally for what we're doing and accomplishing? It's like, that says a lot.
Absolutely.
You don't know what district he's with or at?
8th. Illinois 8th District.
They redistricted that, Gloria, but it along with the 16th congressional district,
I'm familiar
usually
with
had the
them.
least Democratic votes on the State Central Committee, Democratic. So
You know, you push the Democrats a lot. I don't know if that's allowed here.
the you know,
Anyway, are we adjourning?
Yes.
You talk about food a lot, and that just makes me hungry.
Hey, I
so
love
that's
food.
bad.
Well, see,
Well, since we're
we're
all-
like the teenagers. You tell teenagers there's going to
Okay,
be pizza, and they show up.
Coming.
So-
Since we're all getting hungry, let's have a motion to adjourn to closed session, please. Richard, would you?
so moved.
Second.
I
Gotta
think we
read it.
got to read, to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body per Section 2C5 and/or 2. Litigation has been filed as pending or probable per Section 2C11, all in accordance with the Illinois Open Meeting Act.
I would incorporate that language and so move.
Second.
You want me to
Nelson.
read it, Bob?
Pardon me?
You don't want me to reread
I
it,
read
do
it.
you?
He just did.
No, okay, good.
It's read.
Who's got the motion?
John motion and Nichols second. Roll call.
Gorski.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Padilla.
Yes.
Kennedy, yes. Michaels.
Yes.
Soto.
Yes.
Trojan.
Yes. Okay.
Good.
All right, Ellen, please stay. Of course, Attorney Bukowski.
Board of Trustees meeting, October 22nd at 5:15. Meeting will be held in 1300 in the Advanced Technology Center in Belvedere. This location is changed for this meeting only. And finally, the next committee of the whole meeting, November the 5th. This is the first Tuesday, not the second Tuesday, because of the upcoming holidays. Will be at 5:15. It will be held in the PAR room where we are right now on the ERC on the main campus. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kudia, second by Soltow.
Gorski.
Yep.
Nelson.
Yes.
Padilla.
See?
Kennedy, yes. Michaels.
Yes.
Soltow.
Yes.
Trojan.
Yes. Thank you very much, everybody.
So Ellen, you were like this. You were either gasping that we were having the meeting